So today we're going to talk about music styles, and we're going to talk about the differences between certain kinds of singing, like musical theater and classical singing, or like pop and country. So here's the thing. Your voice is your voice. It's your natural instrument. And you don't have to try to make it be something different just because you're singing in a different style. You still use your own voice. There are certain things that you do to make a style happen. So, for instance, when you have a musical theater singer and a classical singer, musical theater, they use less vibrato and only at the ends of phrases, generally speaking. There might be some here and there, but generally they sing a lot of straight tone and then they kind of put some vibrato at the end. They use a lot more chest voice and a lot more of what we call belting. That's a different class, by the way. And range is the sole consideration when they're casting. With the exception of maybe looks, they might, like if they were casting Legally Blonde, they might want some, more petite, blonde girl to play that part. But they're also going to look at, well, Elle's music is, say, middle C to the C above that. It's basically about 8 to 9 note ranges. And I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just talking. And so if this person can sing that and they're blonde and they're cute, they can play L. Whereas in opera, it's not like that at all. Microphones are often used in musical theater, so you don't have to worry about really being heard from the back of the theater over a lot of instruments. Dancing and acting are a huge consideration when they cast. If you can't dance and you can't act very well, you're not going to care so much about how you sing. And words and text really, really matter in musical theater because they are telling these stories and singing songs about those stories. So often there's some things in musical theater songs that are supposed to be funny, that are funny to the audience, especially in the context of the overall drama of the piece. So they really want you to be able to have good diction and to convey that. In classical singing, it's the same voice, but we use a little bit more acoustical science to help us. Because we are not with a microphone, because we are having to sing over an orchestra, we have to make a lot more space. We have to think about what resonators we're using, how much resonance we need for that to occur. And we also use vibrato on every single note. So when you hear classical singers and you hear a lot of vibrato, part of the reason is because of the amount of tension and stamina needed for classical singing. Vibrato helps to lessen that tension and help with stamina. It's also an aesthetic that has to do with classical music listeners. That's supposed to be more like the instruments in the orchestra. They also think about resonance, as I said, and they mix registers, which we're going to talk about registers soon. And they don't belt. There's no belting. It's a way of using the resonators for that sound, for a bigger sound. Also, things that are considered when looking at classical singers is vocal color, the weight of the voice, the range, and the stamina needed. And those are things that really determine casting. So if you're a lead and you're a soprano and you need to be able to sing 3 octaves, and you need to be able to sing an aria that might be 12 minutes long and has a lot of what we call vocal gymnastics or pyrotechnics, we call it sometimes, that would be considered in casting much more so than, say, the way a person looks. We don't, obviously, like I said, there's no microphones. Dance is sometimes used in opera, but not a great deal, so dancing is not as important. Acting is really important, but it's not usually super considered. They would love that. It would be great to have somebody who can sing and act at the same time. However, what's most important in opera is the music, much more so than, say, the acting. Vocal technique in that music really matter the most. So having a solid vocal technique, understanding how the voice works, knowing appoggio, knowing how to utilize your breath, knowing how to control the voice to be able to sing the softest of notes and the loudest of notes on every single pitch you have in your range are very important. And it's why I say if you can sing classically, you can sing any style. After you learn something classically, everything else is a piece of cake. So, and we're going to hear from some singers. So right now I'm going to ask my singer to come up that's going to sing a little bit of musical theater for you and a little bit of classical so that you can hear the difference between the two live. I've also included some YouTube links so that you can hear one singer sing two different styles. But we're going to do that live for you, and I'm going to attempt to play a little bit of piano and you can hear. Yeah, okay. We'll do classical first and then musical theater so you can hear that. A couple of things to explain. So what you're going to, this is Jane, and what you're going to hear Jane do is you're going to hear her sing with a lot of vibrato. You're going to also hear her use her oral cavity and that soft palate to raise to make ooh, that sort of sound, because it has to be loud enough and intense enough and resonant enough to be heard over an orchestra. So those are the two main things you're going to hear in classical singing that might be different than other kinds of singing you hear. When I am laid in earth, may my voice greet, not trouble in thy breast. When I am laid in earth, may my voice greet, not trouble in thy breast. Okay, great. So you can hear the vibrato, you can hear the height in the sound, the tallness in the sound. Also, Jane is a mezzo-soprano, so you can hear warmth and a heaviness in her voice that you wouldn't necessarily hear in, say, a soprano that's a little higher. So now she's going to sing a musical theater selection. What's this from?
Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard. And the other one was from
Dido and Aeneas.
Dido and Aeneas by Henry Purcell. Okay. We'll have her.
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to start second system.
We'll have early morning madness. We'll have magic in the making. Yes, everything's as if we never said goodbye. Yes, everything's as if we never said goodbye. We taught the world new ways to dream.
Okay, so different style, same voice, but a very different style, and a little bit of a different sound. but it's still Jane's voice. She did not change her voice or her instrument in any way, only where she resonated, how she resonated, and some things like vibrato and text, relaying text a little differently, right? So there's your example for musical theater style versus classical style.